We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, good morning, folks. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani. Good to have you with us. You're tuning in from all over the world, and we want to know who you are and where you're calling in from. You're a part of a unique community, a community that will sacrifice their time, will prioritize this 30-minute time slot to get what it is that you want, and we want to honor you. We want to celebrate you. Now, typically we start at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a little bit later, 10 a.m. What a busy week, folks. What a busy week. But in essence, we're in preparation for an intensive that's about to start in about an hour. Couple flying in from Germany. Really excited about that. They've touched down, they've landed, they're on their way. And then tonight we have another couple in Australia. So it's just an honor to be able to serve people and to have an international reach to make impact. So whether you're local around the corner or whether you're halfway across the world, it is an honor for us to do what we do, to be able to speak into your life, to be able to change the trajectory of your relationship to make things better. Listen, we're still on a high from the retreat. I looked up this morning and realized that people are now registering for the November retreat. As announced, it will probably be our last one. We're retiring that portion of what we do and solely focusing on the intensive. So it's not too early. You can go ahead and register. We're a couple months away, but get your slot in because it's going to be an amazing experience, as we've discussed. Now, listen, before we get started, we want you to like, share, and subscribe. Let others know. Let your spouse know, family and friends. And let's dive deep into this conversation. Today's Thursday, which means that tomorrow is relationship Q&A. So make sure you come with your questions so that we can have a phenomenal time. We're talking today about overcoming contempt in your marriage. Let me tell you something. I would say overwhelmingly, people who come to us aren't in a good space. They're not necessarily happy. They're not experiencing good times. They're going through pain. They're going through trials. They're going through all types of turmoil. And one of the things that they struggle with most, not all, but some, is contempt. Now, we've talked about the 3 post-affair marital patterns. We're not going to go through all of them, but we talk about the sufferers. We talk about the builders. We talk about the explorers. And many of you, truth be told, are in a space of suffering. It's a marital pattern where you can't get beyond the hurt. You can't get beyond the pain. And all you're doing is re-injuring yourself. You're continuing to peel back or rip off that Band-Aid, and that wound opens up again. And you begin to experience the pain all over again. And it's like we're in this crazy cycle and we can't get out of it. And so I had one of our clients reach out to me a few days ago and say, listen, do you have anything on contempt? And I know we did something a long time ago because contempt is one of the 4 horsemen that the Gottman Institute so eloquently unpacked. And it talks about the behaviors and the attitudes and the dispositions that we have in a relationship. And oftentimes these particular horsemen give us an indication of what's possible for the future of the relationship, that if all 4 are in full operation, or 3 out of the 4, 2 out of the 4, if 1 out of the 4 is very strong and there's no shift, there's no change, then there's going to be a death to that marriage, which ultimately is divorce. But it is not too late. And so what we want to do today is kind of begin to recognize what contempt actually looks like and give you some examples of it, because there's been many couples that we've kind of walked them through this journey where they came soaked and saturated in so much contempt that it was hard to have a conversation with their partner. It was hard to be in the same room. The energy was just so thick, such a negative, toxic energy. And so, it's more than just counseling, folks. Like, we talk about this all the time. There's got to be a commitment to not just your marital restoration, but a part of your personal transformation is your emotional healing. is a spiritual cleansing. I think that we cannot underestimate the power of God and what he is able to do for us. And oftentimes we're relying on our own intellect. We're relying on our own reasoning. We're relying on our own emotions to figure things out and to make things right. But when you've done all that you can do, and there's nothing more than you can do within yourself, you got to submit to a higher power. And you got to submit your heart, your mind, your soul, your energy, everything to a higher power, because God can do what you can't. He can reach places that you could never reach. He can heal wounds that no doctor could ever heal, right? So yes, a doctor can work on your heart, but when the Bible talks about the heart of man, we're talking about the spirit, right? How do you perform a medical procedure on the spirit? That's only something that God can do. So we pray for spiritual transformation, that God would enter within our hearts and our minds and cause a change to take place. And we find that people who are closest to their creator are the ones who have the most impact. However, those who don't have a relationship, those who deny the existence, those who don't lean into the spiritual component, a lot of them struggle the most. And they struggle with cynicism. They struggle with contempt. So let's talk about this, guys. What is contempt? Contempt is really the degradation of another. It is when you seek to do all types of things that can bring further harm into the relationship. And so, you're constantly looking at your spouse's mistakes. You're not recognizing how they're currently showing up or the things that they are actually doing right. It's more of a focus on the things that they are doing wrong. We will minimize the good things, maximize the bad things, because we have a bad taste in our mouth, a tacit taste in our mouth for our partner, and we ignore all that they're doing well to zone in and focus on all that they're doing wrong. It's called confirmation bias. We've talked about this before. Confirmation bias is I, in my mind, have a bias about you. And my bias or my perception of you is that you are a sloppy, lazy, shiftless, good for nothing individual. And so on Sunday, when you actually did something right, yeah, whatever, that's not you. Tuesday did something right. Yeah, that's just, I don't know, a quirk. Something got into him. But Wednesday, when I identify anything that reminds me of my bias towards you, see, there it is. That's the confirmation of it. It's confirmation bias. So I ignore and discard all the good, and I highlight and zone in and focus on all the bad. And when I do that, that's coupled with a number of different attributes. We talk about how a person who has contempt for their partner is always just sarcastic. They just have this sarcastic tone and disposition. And the contempt that we're talking about, yes, both partners can have contempt for their partner. So the unfaithful partner, okay, or the person who has been responsible for any type of betrayal, a lot of times during the actual affair, if there is contempt, that's when it shows up. We see a lot of hostility towards a spouse while they're in the midst of an affair, because the heightened emotion they have for one diminishes the emotions that they have for another. Passion towards one person shows up in a different way, and you become negatively passionate towards your spouse. So there's contempt in that space. But then after the discovery of the affair, during the recovery process, if they're actually going through a recovery process, a lot of the contempt comes from the betrayed spouse. And boy, oh boy, does that unfaithful partner catch it. And so sarcasm is a part of it. Cynicism is a part of it. Very negative. The glass is half empty. You don't see any positive outcome for the future. You can't, the idea of a possible future with you, I can't even see beyond today, because all I see is my hurt. All I see is my pain. This is an individual who will engage in all types of name calling. Now, we've been talking about the book, The Audacity of Marriage. If you don't have it, you want to get it. Chapter 2 is Help, My Mouth is Killing My Marriage. And we talk about the verbal assassin. We talk about it. And the verbal assassin can literally spit venom. So name calling is just one of the attributes of someone who's operating with complete contempt. But also it's just like, there's just this negative, like when your spouse has anything to say, there's this eye roll, like, oh God. And you don't realize that that's a form of communication, right? So that's the nonverbal communication where you're communicating through body language, facial expressions, gestures. And it's just like you get on my first and my last nerves. I just can't stand you. I just don't like you. Like, like, please back up, get away from me. Stop touching me. Like, I can't do this anymore. You sicken me. That's contempt, folks. That is not sustainable. If that is what you're functioning in, if that is what you're operating in, we need to do something to get you the help that you need, because if you've chosen to be in that relationship, then you want to show up in a particular way. We're going to go deeper into this conversation on the other side of this break. You're watching the Couples Academy show. Be with you in just a second. Couples Academy is expanding its team to meet the growing demand of people in need of help around the world. So if you're a trained, licensed, or certified expert in marriage enrichment, infidelity recovery, sex therapy, life coaching, cognitive behavioral therapy, divorce mediation, financial coaching, or family therapy, contact us today. Hey guys, we're back here watching the Couples Academy show. Listen, I'm going through these comments and I'm like so thankful, man. The love. Let me just quickly recognize Rick Bennett. Good to see you. Vashon, Gorgeous Wells, Fedelino. You family. Kat, LaShawn. Listen, I love you guys. I appreciate the commitment. This is the community right here. I can't go on. There's so many of you. Apple Daily, B. O'Neill, Rick, the list goes on and on. But come on, let's spread the love. Let's grow this group. Let's see what we can do to make this happen. Apple Daily says, my husband and now, I guess, and I don't know, have gratitude journals for every day of the week, and it's helping a lot. I'm so glad to hear that. Gratitude journals are so critically important, because if you don't take the time to be intentional, to acknowledge what you are grateful for and thankful for, it can cause you to feel like, you know what am I doing this for? There's nothing to be thankful for. You can begin to identify every single issue, problem, fault, and flaw, but being intentional to show gratitude shifts things in the relationship. LaShawn, says, I love the chapter of that book, Help My Mouth Is Killing My Marriage. I put my all into that chapter because I was that guy for quite some time. So if you haven't gotten that book, you need to go ahead and get it. All right. Vashon says, going through so much mentally, you are hitting the nail on the head this morning. Tears right now, brother. We are with you. We are praying for you. Whatever we can do to help, we are here. And then Rona says, been following. My marriage is crumbling. How can I be helped? Are you serious? Are you serious, Rona? Are you serious right now? How can you be? Can somebody show her some love and tell her how she can be helped? You can go to the website, set up a discovery call. Let's get on the phone and let's talk about your options and what you can do. And you can continue to tune into this show. And when you have questions, come with it, because we take the time to answer it, particularly on Fridays when we talk about relationship Q&A. All right, we're back into this conversation. We're talking about contempt. Listen, guys, there are some extreme situations out there. And I want to give you examples of what contempt looks like, because it goes from one end of the spectrum to the other. Like, there's some extreme situations and some things you may say, yep, been there, done that, check. Yep, got a t-shirt to prove it. But, there was a couple quite some time ago that I was working with. And let me tell you something. We have a pretty high success rate in working with couples in terms of restoring the relationship, not just keeping them married. Keeping them married, once again, I'm not interested in saving your marriage, because if you have a horrible relationship within your marriage, what's the point? Like, I'm interested in restoring the relationship within the marriage. But the fact of the matter is, not every couple is going to work out. Some individuals can't get past certain things, and they've chosen not to heal. They've chosen not to go through a transformation process. They've chosen not to open up their heart and minds. And we know biblically, if you have a hardened heart, that has led to divorce. Now, if you want to restore the marriage, you're committed to being in it, but yet you're committed to being a sufferer, well, you're going to have to make a decision. Either you're going to have to open up your heart and allow God to heal it and begin to do the necessary work, or you're setting yourself up for an ultimate fall. There's a particular couple a couple years ago. They're not together today, and we can see why. They allowed contempt to overcome them in their relationship. I remember one of the things that the spouse did. The spouse had the password access to the other partner's Facebook page and pulled up every single text message, every single video, every single photo that was evidence of the affair, posted it on the spouse's page to expose that spouse before the entire world. The spouse forced the other partner, who had mentees, okay? This particular person had influence. This particular person was really transformational in other people's lives, but obviously struggled in his own personal relationship. But the spouse forced the husband to go to all of the mentees and to tell the mentees everything that he had done to his wife, and told them to find another mentor. I'm no longer qualified to speak into that particular area of your life. Now, I can go on and on and on and tell you how damaging that could be, but that's what was forced to be done. The spouse demanded that their partner get a tattoo ring on their finger that said adulterer. The level of contempt that they have for their partner, they wanted them to suffer and take that wedding ring off and replace it with a tattoo that says adulterer. They were then forced to call the affair partner and not just bring closure to it once and for all in the presence of the partner, but they were given a list of words, choice words, that they had to express with venom and vitriol and hatred. Every four-letter word that you can imagine in multiple languages. He was then forced to unleash a verbal attack on this affair partner. Then the spouse tried to force the husband to get a vasectomy. I mean, this is some serious stuff. I mean, we're just scratching the surface. The amount of things that were done in this particular situation were insane. Not only was she verbally attacking her husband, she would verbally attack the husband's mother, father, siblings, close friends, would wish death on them, asked that God would cause them to be murdered, raped. I mean, this is the level of pain. This is the level of contempt that can take over you, where your heart becomes darkened. And now it's about vengeance. And the pain that you put me through, I am going to make your life and your world miserable. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on, but I would bore you with all these details. But the point is, These are the things that people are really suffering from. And this is the level of contempt that people can go to. And it's critically important that you learn to free yourself from that level of toxicity, because it cannot work. And this is why we talk about detachment within the household. This is why we talk about a controlled separation, where you're going in your own separate space to find your personal healing, to hook up with a therapist or a counselor or somebody who can guide you through a process for recovery. But there has to be a willingness on your part to do what is necessary to get the things done. Listen, we got one other break. We'll be right back. Let's go a little bit deeper. I want to hear from you. What questions do you have? Have you experienced this level of contempt? What are your stories? Be right back in just a second. You're watching the Couples Academy Show. Yeah, guys, we're talking about contempt. Contempt is a serious situation. One of the things, the last point I'll make on this particular couple, and I know many of you can relate to this, is when you have a level of contempt for your partner, it goes beyond, verbal attacks. It can be physical. Now think about this. There are certain parents who, out of frustration, it's just like you're trying to get your child to think and do, and they won't, and it's just resistant, and you just don't know what to do, and your anger and your emotions overtake you, and you're just like, you just want to shake them, right? Some go well beyond that and become very physically abusive to their child. But we see that show up in relationships as well, where people put hands on their spouse and not in a loving type of way. And so this is an individual who endured everything from kicks to being kneed, if you understand what I'm saying, to being scratched and bitten and literally faced just all. They would constantly go on business trips and, in the hotel room, and, furniture broken and fights for 2-3 hours, blood everywhere, and then could not go to the conference because he just was in complete disarray. The tearing of clothes, my question is, well, why are you still here? Like, now it's become your mission. Right? It's become your mission. I'm going to stay and I'm going to ruin your life. But you don't understand that the evil that you project towards others, you don't realize what that's doing to you. See, on a deeper spiritual level, you are harming yourself because of the level of toxicity that you project and portray and throw towards somebody else. And so it's just a horrible, horrible situation. We say this all the time. There is absolutely no excuse to ever put your hands on your partner at all. You just don't do it. That is an expression of contempt. And these are the things that we have to be mindful of. Kadisha says, good to see you, sis. My husband only shows up when I show contempt, but when I try to give and show love, he acts complacent and ungrateful. That's a horrible situation, and I do understand that. It's so interesting. There was a couple in Texas that we were working with years ago, and the husband had come from a lot of abusive relationships, and he felt that, his wife really didn't love him unless she cursed him out, unless she physically fought and hit and punched and scratched. For him, that was an indication of her love. Backwards, but when she was loving and kind, it did nothing for him. Interestingly enough, as weird as this sounds, he actually became physically turned on, you understand what I'm saying, when she would physically abuse and verbally abuse him. We're talking about a psychological issue here. And the way that we look at relationships and the way that we look at love is so distorted. And that's why you have to be willing to unlearn what you have learned and take on something new. Everything that you do is based upon a deeply embedded belief system that you have within you. And we've accumulated beliefs, and we've just collected these ideas along the way throughout the course of our lives that shape the way that we think and causes us to show up in relationships in a particular way. And a lot of times it is very unhealthy. And we talked about this all the time, and this is going to be a book I write. A lot of us are doing marriage wrong, and we need to learn how to do marriage right. Don't you know, if we knew how to do marriage right, how that would change the game for many of us in our households? So, Khadijah, I definitely understand what you are saying. Another question we have: what do you do when you feel your husband doesn't find you attractive? Help. Well, I mean, that's a common thing, right? In relationships, what happens is either I fell out of love with you, and so therefore I don't have the same physical attraction towards you, or maybe there's so much hurt and harm and disappointment and frustration in the relationship, it's hard to even look at you the same way because of the unresolved issues in the toxicity in our relationship. I just don't find you attractive. I can't connect with you. I just can't do that. And oftentimes physical attraction and physical connection a lot of times can be because changes in your appearance, in your body, you're not keeping up with yourself the way you once did, or it could speak to a relational issue as well. So the question would be, what has happened prior to this lack of attraction, and what can you actually discuss? When we talk about the emotional needs of men and women, one of them is an attractive spouse. It is a need, not just a want, not just a desire, but a need. And so as we take people through that journey, when we do our intensives, we kind of go into the specifics. What is it that you are asking or requesting your partner to do to increase their level of attraction? And so we talk about those. We get into the weeds of that. And some people are just offended. How in the world could you not be attracted to me? Well, listen, it happens. There are seasons we go through. We ebb and we flow. We fluctuate in weight. There are times when we pay attention to certain things physically and times that we don't. So, I don't know if that's as much as a crisis, if you will, as other things. To me, that's just a quick pivot and course correct, but just requires a conversation where you both are open to having that level of dialogue. And see, you got to create a safe environment in order to have that type of conversation to get to the root of it. Because when we remove the feelings and remove the emotions and get to the heart of the matter, we can come up with a resolution to these particular things. You guys are talking about chapters in the book. The chapter on forgiveness, Jody says, on the chapter about forgiving now, very powerful. Love the story a lot. I appreciate you saying that. I'm reading these statements in real time. So Kat says, the audacity of marriage, healing from infidelity. Oh, okay. They're sharing books with each other. I love that. They're communicating in the chat. Another great book by Michelle Weiner Davis, How to Help Your Spouse Heal from Your Affair. You can find that on Amazon. Very good book. Listen, guys, I have an incredible library of books. One of the books that I would highly recommend is Beyond Just Friends by Shirley Glass. I think it's a phenomenal book. It's a very, very thick book, but very comprehensive and will give you everything that you need. One more question. Angel says, I've been on the receiving end of contempt. What advice would you give to someone who has experienced abuse on every level to move mentally forward, to move forward mentally and emotionally? What I would encourage you to do. Wow, that's such a comprehensive question. How about we do this? I'm going to start with that question tomorrow because it is 30 minutes. We're at the end of our show. My producer is giving me signs over here and she's about to play this music. But I'm going to start tomorrow, since tomorrow is a relationship Q&A. I want to give you a deep dive, comprehensive answer to that. And Deanna Walker, I see you too. Guys, tune in tomorrow. I got to get ready for this intensive. This couple from Germany is here. Please, if you would, lift them up in prayer. You feel me? Lift them up in prayer. There's a lot going on. There's some contempt, and we need to change this around. And listen, we're not magicians. We can't snap our fingers or move our nose and then create. No, it takes a lot. It takes you. You're a part of this community. And when we support each other and pray for each other, everything turns around. Love you guys. See you tomorrow.